introduce myself. My name is Bert Baker. I'm from Baker Drivetrain, and I've been in the business for a few years, and I can have my motor work done anywhere on the planet. People will drop what they're doing to do motor work for me, but I choose Capital Harley for a few reasons. Next week, they're going to begin transformation of my 2020 Road Glide from a 114 to a 131, and I'm very excited about that. Very excited. I saw a dynograph that Chris in the service area, who runs the service area, showed me, and I hate him. Because he showed me this dynograph in which the motor made 150 horsepower and 150 foot-pounds of torque. It took me 32 seconds to say, I want one of those. And they have a formula for making that happen. They're very good at doing such work. They have 4 very competent techs in their service department. But 2 in particular are so anal they squeak when they walk. And you want that. If somebody's doing motor work or transmission work on your motorcycle, you want somebody who's so anal they go squeak, 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 squeak across the floor. Because they'll pay attention to all the details that are necessary to make that a good installation. And so about Doug, who will be introducing the motor part, I want to say this. Doug's been in the Harley business one way or another for over 20 years. He knows the drill. He's very, very good at piecing a package together that will meet your needs. He knows how to find parts. If you want a homebrew beer kit that installs on your 2020 Road Glide, and someone makes one, he will find one. He's that good. And he knows everybody in the aftermarket. He knows everybody at Harley Davidson. That makes him a very effective parts person, which of course he's much more than that. And then Chris over in service, all I can say about him is this, is he just makes it happen. There's no drama. You just turn him right, you just give him the keys and he makes it happen. And that's what I want on my 2020 Road Glide. And if you get motor work or transmission work done here, that's what you want too. So I want to thank Shannon and Capital Harley Davidson for having us here today. With that, I'll give you Doug. You're up, brother.
I think we're good.
You're a professional.
I think we're good. I think we're good. I think we're good. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing? Yeah? Welcome. Welcome to Capital Harley Davidson and our Performance Bakery Workshop. Thank you all for coming out on a rainy Saturday morning. So we want to start out a little bit. Thanks for Bert and his staff for coming out. We'll get to them a little bit. We're going to run down through, basically, we're going to run down through your stage kits on why we do it, why it is, the importance of it, and some of the reasoning behind it. So first off, I want to start off with a stage 1 kit. So Harley lists them as stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. We also do that in the aftermarket world too. What we also include in stage 1s in the past, 2016 and earlier, was a full system exhaust. That was part of a stage 1 kit. And the exhaust follows throughout the rest of the systems. But if I can kind of show you, this is a stock air cleaner off a new M8 bike. You can see it's fully enclosed in the back. It's fully enclosed in the front. So when we change that out, this would be a stage 1 air cleaner back. It will be fully open in the back, and it will be fully open around the back of it for air to breathe around it. So the reasoning behind that, Harley motors, any V-twin motor, any motorcycle motor, is nothing but an air pump. It's a gigantic air pump with 2 pistons in it. The more air we can get in, the more air and fuel we get in, the more power we get out. Again, we have to let that air and fuel out, which again is the exhaust. So that's the difference basically between the air cleaner and the tuners and stuff like that. We want more air to come in so we can richen up the fuel. So when we talk to you about that, when we say, hey, we need to do a download or we need to add a tuner with your air cleaner, that's so we can physically go in, it's a key, get into your ECM, change it, remap it, and that adds more air and fuel. We can change them parameters to get more air and fuel into the bike, which gives you more power. For the most part, you're looking at an 8 to 10% gain on a stage 1 kit, give or take. It's not written in stone. We go to that, the next steps, we're going to go to stage 2s, and I'm going to leave it this way. All the stages, as we go up, include 1, 2, so when we get to 3 and 4, they include all of them. They're all part of that kit. So a stage 2 kit is going to be the camshaft. And what the cam's going to do, it's going to affect the RPMs of the bike. So on a touring bike, we're looking for a low torque cam. When you're 2-up riding, you want to be able to come out of the hole, get that bike up to speed. You're not looking for horsepower at the bottom end of it. You're looking for touring and passing bikes. That next stage up from that is a performance mid-range cam, which is a horsepower and torque cam. And then you can get up into the full cam, kind of like we're going to do for Bert on his bike, and it's going to be more of a horsepower cam because he's going to actually drag race the bike. So in regards to the camshafts, not necessarily always included in a kit. This is a set of Harley Davidson adjustable push rods. And the push rods allow us to get and make fine-tuned adjustments so you don't hear the lifter tap and the tapping on the top of it. It's just more of an adjustment. We always will recommend these. And we will also, when we're doing cams, we will also look cam plates, cam bearings, and things like that. And we will make suggestions based on what the bike needs, how many miles it had on it, so on and so forth, and if we need to update that. When we get up to the next section, we're going to go into stage 3s. Stage 3s, we're going to include big bore cylinders and pistons. So I have a set up here. I have one piston up here, and I have a new cylinder. Basically what we're talking about on that, increased displacement of the bike, making that air pump pump more air again, okay? Giving it more power and more bang for your buck. All these kits combined are all good. It's all based on budget and what you want. And when we talk and we're discussing, hey, I want to do this with my bike, or I'm going to ride it here, I'm going to ride it there, that's when we're making them mental notes that, hey, we might want to move to these different stages based on what you want to do. So on the stage 3, you're talking compression ratios, most of all. Most stock bikes are 9.5 to 1. We usually go up to 10.5 to 1. You can go up to 11 to 1, 11.5. When we get up bigger, I'll talk a little bit about this in a second. This cord hanging out of the center of this head is a compression release. Once we get past 10.5, it's really hard on the starters when you go to turn that bike over. So Harley has automatic compression releases, and we also have manual compression releases that we can drill into the heads. So when we get into stage 4s, this is where it comes in. This is your CNC ported heads, your big bore cylinders, your upgraded pistons, your upgraded camshafts. You're still doing a stage 1 air cleaner kit. We're adding either slip on the new bikes, 17 and newer, we're adding slip-on mufflers and keeping the stock head pipe. You get larger intakes, larger exhaust valves. Here's the downside of all these kits. When you buy your bike brand new and it says it gets 40 to 50 miles to the gallon, when you start doing stage kits, the miles per gallon go away. Just simple fact. You're putting more air and fuel into it, and guess what? You can hear it. So you're gonna get on it more. So you're gonna come to me and go, well, dang, I can only get 28 miles to the gallon now, or 30 miles to the gallon. I said, yeah, that's kind of what we told you when we did this. So it kind of goes along. You give and you take. That's kind of the way it is. So again, we'll get into stage 4s and stuff like that. Is anybody have any questions so far? Go for it. What's your question?
I'm getting the stage 2 done on mine.
Okay.
The camshaft, I
Correct.
The one that you chose for me is the one that is for pickup and get going when you need to.
Torque.
Right.
Yep.
Most, 80% of the time I'm going to be riding in the highway. Is that the kind of torque that I need then? The
Yep.
cam?
Yep.
Okay.
Because, so your question is what cam do you need for your bike for your riding position, okay? For your riding technique or riding style. A torque cam is going to work good for you. You have a touring bike, you're riding in packs with groups. The torque cam is going to get you out of the hole and get you up to speed, okay? It's not going to do anything else. It's going to go from low range to mid range. It's not a high-end torque cam, so you're not racing it.
That way you're not down to your stick.
Correct. And it will give you more passing power. So if you need to pass, okay? Perfect question. Yes?
So on the touring bikes, you're only replacing the mufflers, not the...
17 and newer bikes, yes. On a touring bike, yes. On 17 and newer, we cannot replace the head pipe due to EPA regulations. We can replace the mufflers. Now, after your bike is out of warranty, you're free to do whatever you'd like to do.
The reason you don't do it is because of the warranty?
Correct.
So if you have an extended warranty, some other way...
Now, extended warranty in the aftermarket world, yes, we can still do it, okay? And I didn't talk a lot about tuners. So a tuner is required for all of them, stage 1 through stage 4. Harley makes their own tuner, and we also use a Power Vision or a download tuner that we can use on our own dyno. I also didn't include that all of these kits require dyno time. So when we're doing your labor quote, and Chris will talk a little bit about that, when we're doing your labor quotes include 4 hours worth of dyno time, okay, for us to go to tune the bike. So when we're looking at it and going, geez, that's a lot, I'm like, well, 4 hours of that is making your bike run better. So some of the questions, a lot of the questions I get is, I'm going to ride out to Sturgis, I'm going to ride in the mountains, what do I need to do? 2 things. Out west, they're 90 octane, 91 octane is about the most you're ever going to see. We can get 93 here. So my suggestion is if you're going to run out west, bring some octane boost with you so you can boost up the octane in your bike so you can run up in the mountains. Your bike will automatically adjust for some of it. But when you get up into elevations, your bike you'll have some spark knock and some different things that happen. It's common. And it is, but bikes out west are tuned to ride out west. Bikes here are tuned for our sea level and where we sit, okay? Exhaust, it's not always louder makes it faster. We all love loud pipes and it all saves lives. We all get that, but it's not about how loud the bike is. So when the mufflers and head pipes, we have converters in them, we have baffles in them. The baffles are in there for a reason. These pipes have been tuned and already done at the factories that made them for the performance and the air to flow through them. So I get numerous people that I want to take my baffles out to make my bike louder and their bike actually runs worse. So they're in there for a reason. They're to allow back pressure back to the cylinders, and you need equal back pressure in the back of that when it's coming up for the air and fuel to mix correctly and get enough spark and juice to push the piston down and get the bike moving again.
It's a system.
It's a system, and it starts at the beginning. So, any other questions? Go for it.
Got one. Should you wait to get your breakout time out of the way on the bike before you go to the stage systems?
Okay, so your question is, do we want to wait for break-in? Yes. I would like to see you have 1,000 miles on your bike before we put it on a dyno and get that motor broke in and get the rings and everything to seat and set. Absolutely.
Now, if you're talking about having a brand new motorcycle like you have and adding a stage kit to that bike, you can do it right now because you're still going to have a 500 to 1,000 mile break-in period after you put that stage kit on.
Correct.
Changing the pistons and the cylinder wall, you're going to have to break that motorcycle anyway.
Okay.
So you can save time by doing it while it's new.
Yeah. And we also do some of your break-in time is on the dyno. Because we're running it through heat cycles. Okay. Any other questions? Everybody looks excited. Everybody get enough to eat? Okay. That's going to be my little aspect of it. I'm going to turn it over to Chris. He's going to talk a little bit more about service, labor, times, parts and accessories and stuff like that we're doing? All good? All right.
All right, guys, I just got a couple things too, on that, labor times for stage 3 and stage 4 kits. Hold on, technicality. All right, labor times for stage 3 and stage 4 kits on these new Milwaukee 8s. With dyno time, you're looking at about 18 hours. That lets us tear everything off the top. That's included with your 4 hours of dyno time. The reason it's a little bit more for the Milwaukee 8 than it was the twin cams is the new Milwaukee 8 has oil lines that run up over the top of the entire motor. Everything has to be removed before we can tear the bike down like we used to. If you're looking at a stage 2 upgrade, the cam upgrade, you're looking at about a total of about 10 to 11 hours. That's, again, with dyno time. We're going to go in there and get everything changed for you. Stage 1, minimum. You're looking at a half hour to change mufflers, half hour to change the air cleaner, and then the dyno time. So about 4 hours. So you're only about 5 hours into that. The one thing about that is he touched on a little bit was the tuners. That's one thing I wanted to go over with you guys so that you know. If you have a brand new motorcycle and you're within that first 2-year Harley factory warranty, they do suggest that you run the Screaming Eagle tuner. And the only reason being is that once we hook into our system with it after that, Harley Davidson will automatically recognize that you have a different tuner and it will void your powertrain warranty. Some people don't care about a warranty, powertrain warranty. They want the upgrades. So we can do that as well. It's just something that I'd like to let you know. Once you go to the Power Vision, things like that, the aftermarket tuning, they will know. But that's a disadvantage there with the factory warranty. The advantage to the Power Vision is it lets us tune to more parameters than this new Screaming Eagle tuner does. We can tune to twice the parameters, kind of like the old Screaming Eagle tuner used to be, the old orange one. So, does anybody have any questions on the tuners? Cool. Yes, if you guys are interested in any of the stage kits, get with me. If you have any questions on any of the warranty aspects of any of this, get with me on the side, and I'm more than happy to go through it with anybody. But it's real picky, especially if you're in that first 2-year factory warranty of the bike. But if it's the upgrade you're looking for, we're definitely here to make it happen. And we at Capital Harley Davidson, we stand behind our work. So even if they're not going to give you that warranty, we still stand behind what we do. So I believe that's about all I've got. That's labor times, things like that. So I'm going to turn it over to Bert, let him finish out his part here. You guys are going to learn a lot about these upgrades. A lot of upgrades that some of the people here already have. Some are getting, and some may get. Question?
The filter, is there an option when you do your, let's say on a stage 2, of the type of filter you're going to get?
You're going to have a high flow air filter, and that's going to go through all the stages. So once you do it for the stage 1, that's going to be a sufficient air filter to go all the way through. Yep. And they've got a lot of different air filters. So you've got high flow air filters, cones, different shapes. There's aftermarket companies that make air filters. They're all going to do the same thing. They're all going to become high flow. They're going to get that more air in with the exhaust, going to let that more air out like Doug was talking about.
Do they have to be Harley Davidson filters in order to keep you warm? Does that affect your warranty?
Right now, the first two-year part of the warranty, an air filter, I don't feel is going to make a difference if something happens. It's still a high-flow air filter. Technically, for the 2-year warranty, Harley Davidson says anything that's put on that bike other than Screaming Eagle parts and accessories will void the powertrain warranty. But they're not going to know what air cleaner is on that bike. So that's where that falls into play.
They will know what tuner, but no air filter.
They will know the tuner because the electronic system is very, very smart now. Harley Davidson is protecting its investment. So they're looking out for themselves just like we're looking out for ourselves, trying to make our bikes a little better. So, any other questions? Awesome. All right. Think of something. I'm here. Yeah. No, nope, because you've already currently paid for that. So if you're already stage 1 and you've already paid for it, the only thing I can tell you with that is when you go to stage, say that you want to go to stage 4, that's your ultimate goal. And you've already done the stage 1 because you wanted to start out with a little bit more sound. If you go to the stage 2, you got that dyno time. If you go to the stage 3, you got that dyno time again. But if you go straight from the stage 1 to stage 4, you're only paying for that dyno time once. So that's where I like to say, what's your end goal in this? I mean, we can definitely, if it's a money issue and you want to go step by step, that's something we can do. We can take it step by step. But if the money's not an issue, you might as well go to your end goal and save a little bit, because it's going to save you a lot in the end. What's that? I'll have those for you in a little while. No, not too much. We make a value product. You know that. You've got the CVO trike with everything in it. We're going to add more, so. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone. My name is Bert Baker. I do transmissions for a living. I'm not a spiritual person, but I believe that God put me on this earth to do what I'm doing, because I love it. With me here today is Michelle Baker, my daughter, in charge of social media and marketing. Steve Bert, yes, that's his last name, Steve Bert, spelled B-I-R-T, from sales. If you have any questions, you can direct them to any one of the three of us. 22, 23 years ago, Lisa and I were engineers at a car company in town. You may remember it, called Oldsmobile. And we decided to quit our day jobs and roll the dice on something called Baker Drivetrain. And we did that primarily because there were no other companies specializing and focusing on the transmission. And there were many motor companies at the time. There was Merch, S&S, TP Engineering. This is ancient history. But and at the time, Harley wasn't very competent on motor upgrades. Fast forward to today, Harley is very competent on motor upgrades. They have the various packages we've heard about. And the one thing I've learned in the last 20 plus years is that if you want to change your performance, not necessarily to increase it, but if you want to change the behavioral characteristics of your motorcycle, you need to view it systemically. It is a system. I use the exaggerated example that the valve stem cap on the front tire is related to the compression rings on the front cylinder. That's an exaggerated example, but the whole motorcycle is a system, and you have to view it as such. Going back to Doug and his history in the business, he understands this very well. He understands this very, very well. You increase the noise level in your pipe, that does not necessarily mean that you increase the performance. You may decrease the performance. When you talk about altering your motorcycle, you need to view it systemically, and you need to be aware that if you get something, you have to give something up, such as life. You get a wife, you get this. You don't have a wife, you get that. Or a spouse. Shannon, do you have any witty comments on what I just said? In regards to compromise. Absolutely. She's always full of wit. She's an associate carny. I view myself as a carny because I sell popcorn and peanuts and talk about transmissions. But I enjoy doing what I do. So on with the show. 20 plus years ago, we offered the OD6 and we still offer that transmission today. It's an overdriven 6-speed overdrive that gives you 500 RPM reduction on the highway when cruising. That's what the 6th gear was all about. That's what launched our business. In '03, we came out with something called a DD6, a direct drive 6-speed, in which top gear is 1-to-1. You still have the RPM reduction on the highway, but we overdrive the primary drive. If you want to know what that means, get with us after the show here. But we overdrive the primary drive to give you the same net result, which is RPM reduction on the highway. But those two transmissions apply only to pre-07 applications. Most people are riding modern motorcycles these days, and I will tell you, any big twin Harley that utilizes the '09 and later frame, like on the trikes, my new 2020 Road Glide is just a beautiful motorcycle. The only danger is falling asleep on the damn thing because it's so comfortable. I mean, it's just like sitting in a lazy boy in your living room watching TV, man. It's really comfortable bike, top of the line bike. So fast forward to '07 and later applications. We offer two transmissions. We offer the new GrudgeBox and we offer the DD7. Both have, or they each have different gear ratios, very different gear ratios. The DD7, the top gear in it, 7th gear, is 1-to-1 ratio, just like the stock bike. In other words, there's no RPM reduction on the highway, but what you have is lower gear ratios down low. First, second, and third are much lower than the stock first, second, and third. And that is great for taking off on a heavy application like a trike. That is great for taking off. If you just enjoy cruising and enjoy 2-lane roads, the DD7 is probably for you. The ratio difference, though, if you take a brand new motorcycle and put a DD7 in it, your perceived acceleration, what you perceive, will be amazing. You will feel like you're going very fast because numerically you're multiplying more torque down low. The reality, if you're racing somebody though, the reality though is that you want a GrudgeBox, because a GrudgeBox makes the motor labor and it makes your net result is a much lower time slip if you're drag racing at the drag strip with a GrudgeBox. You won't perceive that you're going very fast as a DD7, but as it relates to a time slip, you will be going faster. I named it the GrudgeBox because Milan Drag Strip is my playground where I play. I have a little 9.5-second bike I play with and have a lot of fun with it. I love to bust off a nice, juicy 1-2 wheelie on the drag strip. It destroys your time, but it looks cool, especially if a photographer gets a picture of it. You may have seen some pictures of that, but where was I going with this? I don't know. Let's go back to the GrudgeBox DD7 analogy.
Bert, can I ask you a quick question?
Go ahead, please.
What do you mean when you say time slip?
A time slip. A time slip, good question. In the drag racing world, what you do is you line up at the tree. There's a picture of a light tree from a drag strip on the Speed Shop logo on the back wall there. When you line up at the light, that quarter-mile strip of pavement is a lie detector test. At the end of you make a run, and at the end of the run, there's a little shack with a person in it, and they give you a time slip. That time slip tells you how fast you went, what your top speed was through the quarter mile. It's the great lie detector test. Anybody can sit on a bar stool and pontificate about how fast their motorcycle is, but when it comes down to it, it all boils down to a time slip. Once again, if you take a bike with a DD7, you would perceive that you have a lower time because the acceleration through the gears is like that. I won't do that again. Don't ask me to. It is very quick, but you're not eating up miles on the pavement. You're not making your motor labor. The GrudgeBox makes your motor labor, and the net result is on a quarter-mile drag strip, you'll have a lower time with a GrudgeBox. You will beat your competitor. You will beat your neighbor at the stoplight to stoplight drag race that occurs every weekend in the warmer months. You know, that will be the net result. That will be the net result. And if you want to talk about numbers, the stock first gear ratio on an 07 and later Harley is 3.34. The DD7 first gear ratio is 3.76. It's more of a creeper gear, if you will. And also for reference, which I'll get into in a minute, the ratio on our F6R reverse is 5-to-1, meaning this gentleman on his trike could back up a tree if he so chose to. Very, very steep, and that's what you want on a reverse system. The first gear ratio on a GrudgeBox is 3.15. It's what they call shorter. And what it allows you to do, instead of having to shift into second halfway across the intersection, you might make it 3/4 of the way across the intersection before you feel the need to upshift. Does that answer your question? That was a lengthy answer to your question. Any other questions? And at any time, raise your hand. Yes, sir.
Why do we want a GrudgeBox with a big displacement motor?
Very good question. When you get up into what is a typical power output, Chris, on a stage 3? Is it 120 foot-pound? Is it, yeah, torque or horsepower, 120. A stage 4 is more 130-ish or something. Okay. When you get up into the stage 3, stage 4 arena, you will break your stock transmission. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The stock Harley transmission is very, very well designed. I have no problems with it for a stock displacement motor. If you're interested in higher levels of performance, you will break your stock transmission like this one that Vanna White just showed you. That's Vanna. And you will break third gear. Why? This is the reason, is if you can imagine these two shafts being my fingers, when you put the wood to it, when you crack that throttle wide open, the shafts bend like that, particularly in the middle. The gears want to walk away from each other. It's inherent in their nature. When they walk away from each other, less of the teeth are in mesh, as exaggerated example of my fingers. So you got good traction. You're twisting hard like my man over there does, like Scott does, and you crack it open. The shafts bend. Do this. It'll crack the teeth off of the tips of the teeth off. And so that's inherent in any transmission. The gear teeth on the Harley Cruise Drive 6-speed are small and helical. I'll go into that in a minute. They're small and helical for a reason, because Harley has to comply with something called noise pass-by, a DOT regulation. Any motor vehicle has to comply with both EPA and DOT. Here at Baker Drivetrain, we don't comply with any frickin' DOT. We are the evil aftermarket. This is what we do. We focus on performance. DOT, what? And so we don't have to comply with DOT. So our gear teeth are much larger, and they're also straight cut. What that means is you might be able to see on this gear set or this one the angled nature of the gear teeth. That's what's called a helical gear. Every passenger car on the road has helical gear teeth. Every one. Why? Because noise. Helical gear teeth are much quieter than straight cut gear teeth. Now, going back to the analogy, to get something, you have to give up something in life and on your motorcycle. And what you give up on a helical gear set is power. When a helical gear pair is in mesh, it has an axial component like this, and I'm getting into my little engineering world, but that axial component is a side thrust. That side thrust gives up power in the form of friction. It's the nature of it. So, do you want a motorcycle that's quiet so you can listen to your Henry Mancini on your stereo? Or do you want a motorcycle with a transmission that lives and survives, that is bulletproof and strong, with a little more gear noise? Personally, I don't count sheep when I go to sleep. I listen to gear noise in my head, and it puts me to sleep each night. Chris, you got something?
Just in case you do that, I do have some great audio upgrades as well.
If you want to listen to Henry Mancini and your GrudgeBox, you just crank it up. Right. That works too. That works too. And any questions on that?
What kind of warranty is on your GrudgeBox?
5 years, 50,000 miles. I stand behind it. I got it tattooed all over me. I take it very serious. Yeah.
So you know there's no other warranty for a transmission for these bikes like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I stand behind it. When I design something, I way over to design it for strength and how can I put this? I like it. I like my transmission. I like people to enjoy my transmissions and beat the crap out of them respectfully. There's a difference between beating the crap out of a transmission relentlessly and mercilessly. Yeah, you got me. And doing it respectfully. That's how I design my products, and I pay little attention to noise. Now, on the DD7, we did pay attention to noise in the higher gears. On a DD7 in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, you have helical gears. It is a hybrid gear set in that 1st, 2nd, and 3rd are straight cut, and the rest of the gears are helical for cruising. Once again, a straight cut gear pair will most efficiently transfer power to your rear wheel with minimal parasitic loss. Minimal. Any questions on that? All right. Let's talk a little bit about the F6R reverse. The F6R reverse is pretty simple. I'll start out the story by telling you this. It was 3 years ago in Sturgis. I wasn't at the booth, but we set up at Black Hills Harley Davidson. And Willie G walks by with a very, very large man assisting him. Expected. Willie G spots somebody in our booth, Scott, and runs up to hug him And Scott's like, whoa, whoa, what's going on here, Willie? And Willie said, I want to thank you for doing the F6R reverse. And he said, why? He said, well, I have a couple trikes, and that's the reverse I have in my trikes, so I want to thank you. I consider that a glowing endorsement because they make their own reverse system for trikes, but he chose ours. And I believe that if Harley were, or General Motors for that matter, were to make integrate a reverse into an existing transmission, they would do it like we did because of the following reason. This is how it works. You're in first gear, clutch in, you hit the override switch, which is a safety switch. You depress that switch, you tap down one more time, you're now in reverse. Let go of the switch. You let your clutch out, you back up, do your reverse maneuver. You clutch back in, you don't have to hit the switch again, you click up, you're back in first. I believe a couple people have the F6R here. Sir, what do you think of it?
It's not right. I love my Harleys and all that. The stock reverse on that stuff.
Okay. Okay, problematic. The Barbie car reverse? I call it the Barbie car reverse.
No matter what you do with the throttle, that reverse is there is one speed.
Yes, sir. That's right.
It's just hard to back it up sometimes in tight spots.
Okay.
We put your reverse on there.
Yes.
And, I love it. You mentioned backing up a steep.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that with a stock reverse.
Okay.
Into my toy hauler backwards.
Okay, you couldn't get up that ramp with the stock reverse.
It blow the circuit breaker.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, and I'm unfamiliar with the stock ones to that level, but you couldn't back up your incline to get it into the trailer. Okay.
If you're not careful, you're going to get too damn fast. You're going to lose control.
Okay, so it's a little bit of a hair trigger as well.
It's on or off.
Okay, it's an on-off switch effectively.
So yeah, you can ease into yours a little bit more.
You have control via the clutch on what you want to do, correct?
Same control in reverse.
Yeah.
Reverse is you go forward.
Okay.
It's related on the throttle and everything. And like you said, with the gear ratio you got,
Yeah. 5 to 1.
getting rid of the Barbie doll.
Getting rid of the Barbie doll. I'm sorry, Shannon. That's what I call them. Is you buy one of those little Barbie cars for your daughter or grandkid or whatever, and then you're going through the yard. So, but when I designed that reverse, I designed it for extreme use. There's a number of videos on the internet. Excuse my French, but that really fucks with somebody's head when you do a reverse burnout. I mean, it messes them up. It messes them up, especially in front of a bar room at 1 in the morning. It messes them up. It messes them up. And so I'm very pleased with the reverse. Thank you for your kind comments, both of you. And I just received word from Steve that we got an order for 7 reverses going to where?
Odessa, Harley Davidson in Ukraine.
Is that near Portland?
On the other side of the...
That's over there. That's over there where the Russian mafia is. That's pretty cool stuff. That's pretty cool stuff. And I designed it probably over 10 years ago, but it's the At first, people thought, oh, why do you need a reverse on a motorcycle? Well, when you have a vertically challenged inseam like myself, backing up a road glide, a 2020 road glide, is a challenge. And the neat thing about a reverse is you pull into a parking lot situation, and without a reverse, you need to park your bike with an exit strategy in mind. You don't want to get boxed in. And so with a reverse, you don't have to think about an exit strategy. You just don't have to think about it. Michelle, am I missing anything here? No? I'm doing okay? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Trike thing is, there's a reason your comments make sense, but there's also a lot of people that aren't ready for a trike. And the only reason they get to a trike is because they can't back the bike up.
That's right. Right. Limited. Keeps them.
Especially with a passenger.
That's right. That is a fact. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You get in the parking lot. Yep. Well, Willie G has a couple of them, so that makes them cool in my mind. Go ahead, sir.
A circuit breaker.
That circuit breaker, so you'd have to reset.
You got to get off, you got to pull the side cover off.
Oh, it's not accessible. You have to pop the side cover off, and then the crowd gathers around. Oh, what's the matter with your new trike? And so the F6R is a pretty neat deal. The neat thing about our partnership with Capital Harley is that on any of our products, if there's any installation glitch or issue, Chris calls one of my engineers and has them come over and address it. So with Capital Harley and Baker Drivetrain, there's a little bit of an advantage. We can't offer such a service in the Ukraine. We can't do that. It's not practical. My plus one? Now we offer 2 oil pans. Thank you. We offer 2 oil pans. 10 or 15 years ago, we came out with a plus 1 oil pan. And keep in mind, none of my product ideas have ever been novel. I just look around what everybody's doing. Well, big volume oil pans have been commonplace in the hot rod, Chevy V8, Ford V8 world. Big volume oil pans, because when you push in big displacements with big compression, you're going to heat up that oil. You're going to incinerate that oil. If you have more oil in the oil pan, it will lower the temperature. We've measured temperature decreases of 20 degrees F. So we came out with a plus 1 oil pan probably in 2005, and that works on bikes through 2008. And we're talking about touring bikes here. We're talking about touring bikes. And in 2009, their new frame forced us to come out with a new pan, oil pan, which is a 1.5 quart oil pan. An additional 1.5 quarts on this oil pan. Within a few years, Harley also came out with a 1.5. And that doesn't make me mad at all, because if a very large company is copying little bitty Bert Baker, I'm okay with that. That gives me a little legitimacy. And so there's a 1.5 available through Harley or Baker Drivetrain. Make your choice. I'm not here to push things on you. And for the 1.5 is for 09 and later applications.
Fit my trike then.
Yes, sir. Because your trike is 09 and later based.
Yeah.
That is correct.
It's an MA, the new MA.
Okay. We don't have it for M8.
17 and newer.
Then that's what you're asking me.
Yes.
That's what Bert get to work.
In the Southwest.
Okay, I got you. And it's just, it's a different shaped oil pan. It's still doable on our part. Thank you for the product idea. The one thing about the oil pan to keep in mind also, and it doesn't, for now it doesn't apply to M8. One thing about the oil pan is this, is when you have stage 3 and stage 4 applications, what you actually want to do is this, is you want to use a 1.5 oil pan, and you want to give it the stock oil fill. In other words, what is it, 3.5 quarts? On a brand new bike, what is it? 3.5 on a twin cam. The M8's probably a little different. 4.5? Okay.
It's already holds an extra cord. That's the little lines that I was talking about.
Got you. Okay, you got all the additional oil cooling and all that on the heads. What you actually want to do is run less oil so that you have increased air above the oil. And you want that for the following reason. And once again, in the oil pan, there's oil, and then there's an air cavity above it. The blow-by on your pistons will increase with higher levels of performance. Oil does not compress, air does. So you actually want to increase, this is kind of an advanced concept, but you want to increase your air volume above the oil so that the blow-by in the closed-loop system allows more compression of that air above the oil. That will give you more performance. The cooling, though, you lose that. So once again, engineering compromise. You give up something to get something. It's very systemic in nature. Any other questions? Baker Drivetrain also makes a 6-4 transmission, knucklehead. We make we make kicker gears for old bikes. Who was the guy from Battle Creek with the collection of bikes that was here? The old bikes. Who was? Al? Al, he came with like a 1918 Harley and kick-started. Roger. We make kicker gears for 1918 motorcycles. We make a bunch of old stuff. Steve, go ahead.
Don't forget our N1 shift pattern.
Okay. One other neat thing, thank you,
Yes, sir.
we offer on GrudgeBox is an N1 shift pattern. What does that mean? I was sitting there in a daze 18 years ago, and I wondered, why is neutral located in between first and second? What if neutral was down below first? In other words, you're at a stoplight and you're in first gear. Instead of lifting up and fishing for neutral, you tap down and you're in neutral. We offer, as part of the GrudgeBox content and the OD6, we offer, and the DD6, not the DD7, we offer an N1 drum which puts neutral below first gear. It's pretty handy for when you're rolling up to a stoplight and you just want to mindlessly find neutral such that you let the clutch out and you're good. You're in neutral idling. We do freaky stuff like that because we be freaks. And the one thing I would urge you to do is, when considering any of Baker Drivetrain products, consult with Doug and Steve on the systemic integration of them. You may not need anything from us. If you're installing a 131 in your bike, you will be urged to put a GrudgeBox in it. Because if you don't, a month later, you'll come back with this, as Vanna White, beautifully demonstrated. You will blow the third gear out of it, guaranteed. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so please listen to them about the integration of our products with your motorcycle, because there's very few dealerships that understand the systemic nature of all products, whether it's a cam or a pipe or a transmission. They do understand the systemic nature. Yes, sir, please. No. Another product idea. I was ready for that. I wore my asbestos underwear this morning, so I'm good. You can't catch me on fire. Any other questions? We'll be here for a little while. If you have any questions, please hit us up. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming to the Capitol Harley Performance Workshop. Have a great weekend.